Hello everyone! So I wanted to pop up a quick video for you today about books. I love books, they're one of my favourite things, and it's been a minute since I did my last book video. I think it's been nearly an entire year. Oh, hello there. Hello. I'm coming to sit in my video. I think it's always around this time of year that I tend to read the most. I think summer, you have holidays. I have a little roundup of things I want to read this summer, a few books I have read as well. I'd love to do these monthly and tell you guys about what I've read, but I just don't ever seem to manage to get through an entire book. So I start things, I read them halfway through, then I start something else. So I've actually not read a whole lot this month, but I will talk to you about the things that I have finished. I think it's literally 2 books that I've managed to get all the way through. I bought one of these earlier this month, kind of a little birthday present to myself. This is a Kindle. It's actually a Kindle Paperwhite, and I've had these in the past. I've had Kindles before, and I kind of got really against them because I missed having a book. I think you are either a Kindle reader or you're a real book reader. I love books, I think they're beautiful, and I just like having them around. But when it comes to things like new bestsellers and kind of just really disposable literature, I was just buying way too many books and then giving them away again. So I thought for things like that, I would get myself a Kindle. And I actually really like this. It's a touchscreen, which kind of threw me to begin with because I'm used to the ones with the little buttons on the side. They're the ones I've had in the past. But it's very easy to just digest an entire book in one sitting with one of these without even realising. Before you know it, you finish and you've clicked the last page and it's all over. So this is the one book that I have finished reading. This is The Girl Before by J.P. Delaney. And I was going to buy this, but they only have hardcover at the moment, and I prefer the way a paperback feels. I also think they're just easier to read. This is definitely a thriller, and I'm not a thriller person at all. Anything kind of freaky or creepy or a bit murdery doesn't really tend to be my scene when it comes to reading, but I've heard a few people talk about this and I think it is a bestseller at the moment. So I read it, and I have to say I didn't love it, and I think that's just me going in not enjoying thrillers in general being the reason, but I just felt like there was a bit of an ulterior motive with this one. The writer definitely had a few things that they wanted to put in this book, despite whether or not it kind of fitted with the story. That's how I felt anyway. But I have to say, I could not put this down. I read this whole thing cover to cover in, I think, maybe one day, a day and a half, because it's just one of those things that you don't realise how into you are until it's 3 in the morning and you're still reading this under the covers at night. So I have to say I enjoyed it. I definitely got through it, but it wasn't that special to me. And this is one that I've read so many times, is Captain Corelli's Mandolin by Louis de Bernier. I do this a lot with TV and films as well. I tend to go back to the same things over and over and over again, and I never pick up new books because I'm always reading old books that I've read before. I think it's a bit of a nostalgia thing, but I love this book. It's one of my all-time favourites. It's kind of a love story, but it's also set in the war. It all takes place on a Greek island, and just reading this makes me feel like I'm there. Although the subject matter of this book is kind of heavy, I still think it comes down to being more of a kind of love story at the core of it, and that's what I really enjoy. So I read that again. I'm probably going to read it many more times to come, but it's one of my favourites, so I recommend you reading that if you haven't yet. So let's tuck into some of the new books that I've bought that I haven't read yet. So this one I saw in a charity shop, I think it was, and I was surprised at how good condition it was. I love when secondhand books come with really random stuff inside. So this is kind of a classic. This is Persuasion by Jane Austen. I haven't actually read this. I really like Jane Austen, and I've read Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility and a lot of those, but I've never read Persuasion before. As with most Jane Austen books, it's kind of, there's a love story right at the core of it. Can you sense a theme of the kind of books I enjoy? So I think I might read that next actually, because I'm interested to see what it's like. It's quite a short one too, so it shouldn't take too long. Another little one that I think I could get through quite quickly is this one here. It's an Ian McEwan on Cecil Chesil Beach. So this is, I think this is going to be a film soon. I think that's why I bought it. I wanted to read it before I saw it. Atonement by Ian McEwan as well is one of my favourite books. So I haven't actually read much else of his, which is kind of a crime because there's so many good ones, but I'm definitely going to give that a read. And then I have a few kind of very easy summer reads. So this one is Big Little Lies by Lane Moriarty. I watched the series of this, like I'm sure many of you did, and absolutely fell in love with it. The whole thing from Reese Witherspoon and Nicole Kidman and the whole cast of it to the way they shot it and everything, I just absolutely loved it. And I knew it was a book before I saw it, and I very rarely watch something before I read it. This is kind of different. It's set in Australia. I think Lane Moriarty is an Australian author, so it's a bit different to the series, which is set in the US. I think the way they did this in the show is going to be quite different to reading it. I feel like it was told in very little words, and this one looks like it might be kind of a bit more in-depth and detailed, so I'm kind of interested to see the difference between the two. So I have that one to read. And then I also got another one from the same author. This is Truly Madly Guilty, kind of along the same lines, involving a few different people who kind of come together and the whole thing unravels like that. So again, I think this one is going to be one of those sitting in the sun, reading outside kind of books. The actual first line of the back says, "This is a story which begins with a barbecue." Next is one that I've actually tried to read a few times. This is The Immortals by S.E. Lister. I may or may not have mentioned this in my last book video, so I'm thinking it might have taken me an entire year to actually get around to reading this, but the story behind this is so interesting. The premise of it sounds really, really cool. It's about a girl and a family that kind of live in the same year over and over again, so time resets. It's kind of a sci-fi time travel kind of thing, and I like books like that a lot. I will make myself read this because I think it's going to be so good. I also think the cover is beautiful too, so I just have to sit down and get myself into that one. This next one's kind of similar actually. This is Extracted by R.R. Hayward, Extracting book 1, and I think that means there's another couple of them in the series. I think I found this one on Amazon. I was kind of scrolling through my recommended list and this came up. And this is again another one about time travel. It's set in the future, but it just sounded really interesting. I get very drawn into the idea of stories. Although I like this kind of genre, I think it's still going to be quite a departure for me because it feels very sciencey, very kind of spacey. Great description. But it sounds kind of cool, and I'm interested to read something a bit different than I usually do. I tend to stick, as you guys know, to the same thing, if not the same book, the same genre over and over again. I also have a non-fiction book here, and I never ever read non-fiction, which is terrible really, because there's so many good things to be read. This is actually a recommendation of Susie's. She's read this and said I would very much enjoy it. It's actually by Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love. I have read Eat, Pray, Love, and I'm sure hundreds and hundreds of other people have too. I think this is going to be really relevant to what I do. It's all about kind of creativity and how to be motivated and inspiration and where that all comes from, the kind of big idea and the big magic. So I think it'll be a really interesting read. I think there's definitely some things in here that I could apply to my everyday life and my career. This is another one that I think they've just made a film adaptation of, and I really, really wanted to see it, but I thought it looks like the kind of thing that's probably better in book form, and in fact this has actually won the Man Booker Prize. So I'm guessing it's a pretty good one. This is The Sense of an Ending by Julian Barnes. I think this is quite a famous book. I've definitely heard of it before. It's a lot shorter than I thought it would be. I think I could probably get through this in an afternoon. But this is basically about a man who is retired. His name's Tony Webster. He's retired and divorced, and he's kind of looking back on his life and where things went wrong. And I kind of like books like that sort of swap between past and present. So I'm excited to read that one. And then last of all, we have some hardcovers, a few hardcovers. Like I said, I never ever buy hardcovers just because I find them so difficult to read with this paper thing, and do you take it off or do you leave it on? I mean, it's a very small problem. This one was actually sent to me though by the publisher. So this is The Wonder by Emma Donoghue, and this is I think the newest book from Emma Donoghue, who is the author of Room, which is a book that I think you should all read. It's very good. It's one of those kind of soul-destroying, heart-wrenching ones. So it's a similar kind of thing. It focuses around a child again, an 11-year-old child who is said to have eaten nothing for months but appears to be thriving miraculously. It just sounds very interesting to me, so that's The Wonder. And then the second hardcover I got, I have to say I bought this because it's just one of the most beautiful books I've ever seen. I think this cover is actually limited edition, so you have to buy it from W.H. Smith. I think that's where I got this one anyway. I definitely am guilty of judging a book by its cover, but this does sound very interesting nonetheless. It's set in the 1800s. It's set in England, and it's kind of all places that I'm familiar with, and I really like it when books do that. I kind of can imagine where people are. So I think this is going to be quite an intense one to read. I feel like there's a bit of a historical vibe with this type of writing, but nonetheless, I'm really looking forward to reading it. So that is everything on my summer reading list this year. Definitely let me know. So that is everything that's on my summer reading list this year. I hope you enjoyed that. Definitely let me know if you've read any of these, what you thought of them. No spoilers though, please guys. You all gave me some really great recommendations in the comments of the last video, so definitely do that again. I think I went through with a pen and paper and just wrote so many things down. So if there's anything you think I would like, please leave that down below. And thank you all so much for watching today. I hope you had a great weekend, and I will see you all soon. Bye.